After we last spoke, when Mr. Kershaw had been doing snow angels naked on his driveway, I helped him back indoors and saw that he was dry, dressed, warm and fed, you know. Thankfully, Tricia came over to help me. I wouldn't have managed it on my own. Although how she navigated the snow in those hooker heels I do not know. Although I suppose the heel is effective as a spike for additional grip. I digress. I got home. No sooner than I'd put the potatoes in the oven and flicked the kettle, there was a knock at the door. I could see through the frosted pane a high-visibility jacket. I answered the door.
Mrs. Dixon Cox? Mrs. Daphne Tuppence Dixon Cox?
The police officer asked. Yes, I responded, with a gentle nod and a knowing weakness in my knees.
May I come inside?
I offered to make her a drink, but she refused. Jenny Taylor, the officer was called. Lovely person, very polite. Even offered to remove her boots. Ordinarily I'd have insisted, but since we had the solid oak wood flooring throughout, January before last, it hardly seems necessary. Easy to clean, and I enjoy it if truth be told. Something very satisfying about sweeping and mopping this floor. She suggested that I might want to sit down. I perched on the edge of the settee to listen to what she had to say. We've had this one for about 4 years now. There's nothing wrong with it, but we're due an upgrade. I was rather keen on the cream leather suite that Paul and Vanessa had. It would lighten our living room up beautifully. Of course, Keith doesn't appreciate unnecessary expenditure. Calls it frivolous.
We don't need to redecorate every year,
he says. That's men for you. Would happily live in squalor.
There's been an incident,
P.C. Taylor said. I said, look, if this is to do with Mr. Kershaw stripping bare and doing the helicopter with his penis whilst the kiddies watched, he's not a well man. His wife died about a year ago and he's not coping. We got him indoors and... Well, she interrupted me.
It's not that, Mrs. Dixon Cox.
I didn't think it would be. I was already fearing the worst and delaying the inevitable.
There's been an accident on Wirksworth Road.
Oh, I said, we're Mr. Manjew's newsagents, confectioners and off-licenses. I know the one. It's not far from here, few streets down. Is it the top end or the bottom end? That top end can be a bit of a nightmare at the best of times. Was anyone hurt? I inquired. Is Mr. Manjew okay? I was interrupted once more.
It's your husband, Mrs. Dixon Cox. Keith Dixon Cox.
That's him, I confirmed. She then said,
There's no easy way to say this, Mrs. Dixon Cox. But he was in an accident and died at the scene. We'll need you to confirm his identity.
We went to the hospital morgue immediately. Sure enough, that was my Keith. He looked as though he'd been in the wars. Thankfully, according to the medics, it would have been relatively quick. Which is the best any of us could have asked for, isn't it? They said that he'd been hit by a driver of another vehicle, and they believed that the driver was under the influence. With the weather being as it was, and it was a recipe for disaster, and Keith, well, They dropped me home and asked if there was anything I needed in the moment before they left. I said yes, actually. You've told me of my husband and his condition, but you have not informed me of the condition and whereabouts of my denim blue Mercedes-Benz SLK with luxury pineapple vegan leather seating and additional safety features. P.C. Taylor looked bemused. There was a silence momentarily.
Mrs. Dixon Cox, the vehicle of which you mention is unsalvageable. I would say a complete write-off. It was towed away. Firefighters had to cut your husband out.
I was stunned. The emotion began to hit, and naturally, I began to cry. I won't be embarrassed by it. I had had a shocking day. P.C. Taylor then extended her arm out with a bag and said,
This was retrieved from the wreckage, however, if it is of any comfort.
I tentatively opened the bag, reached inside, and pulled out a box. A box of pristine condition containing a limited edition lithium battery-operated corn-on-the-cob stripper. Twin set. I took it out to take a further look. I really didn't see the appeal. Then I noticed something odd. I inquired with P.C. Taylor, "Where are the batteries?" The ad said that batteries were included, but none are in the box or the product. The officer said that this was everything. Before she left, I had only one other question for her. Important, you know. May I ask? P.C. Taylor gave a gentle nod, and so with that I continued. What vehicle was the drunk driver driving when he hit my Mercedes-Benz SLK? Another lengthy pause and a baffled expression from P.C. Taylor.
It was a Range Rover Sport in black.
Thank heavens for that, I proclaimed. That really does bring me a world of comfort. To have one's car written off is a tragedy, but to have it ridden off by a respectable vehicle brings me a world of reassurance. Well, my car is well known around these parts. I don't think I could stomach the embarrassment of people paying their respects to me whilst sniggering behind my back if my Mercedes-Benz SLK had been ridden off by, I don't know, something like a Ford Fiesta. Or a Picanto. At least sleep needn't be disturbed by the whole affair, and I can proudly look in the eyes of others in the knowledge that my car was ridden off by a black Range Rover Sport. That was all of my questions, and with that she left, not without thrusting a bereavement pamphlet in my palm, suggesting I consider making contact with the helpline once the shock wears off. I sat alone with a limited edition corn-on-the-cob stripper that requires batteries and has none. A widow bearing the loss of my denim blue Mercedes-Benz SLK. And as soon as I realised, 2 very burnt baked potatoes as I'd forgot to turn the oven off before heading out to identify a gift.